What happens when a billionaire CEO makes one reckless mistake, and it destroys everything he's built? A forbidden night with a poor cleaner sparks betrayal, revenge, and a love story that no one saw coming. This isn't just drama, it's war between power and love. Stick around till the end, and trust me, you won't believe how this story unfolds. Don't forget to comment your thoughts, like this video, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss the next twist. In every city, there are two worlds. One made of glass towers, luxury cars, and boardrooms where decisions move billions overnight. And another, hidden in the shadows of those towers, where ordinary people hustle, sweat, and sacrifice just to make it to the next day. This is where our story begins. Damian Blackwood, a name whispered in business circles with equal parts awe and fear. He is the kind of man the media calls untouchable. Billionaire CEO. Jet-setting, deal-closing, ruthless in the boardroom. The kind of man who walks into a room, and silence follows like a shadow. Yet, behind that steel stare and expensive suits, there is something no one dares to mention: loneliness. The kind of loneliness that money cannot silence. And then, there's Elena Cruz. She doesn't live in glass towers. She lives in a one-bedroom apartment on the wrong side of town, where the wallpaper peels and the rent climbs higher every month. Elena works as a cleaner inside the very building that Damian Blackwood rules from the top floor. Every night, after executives go home, she pushes her mop across marble floors that will never belong to her. She is invisible. Or at least, she believes she is. But fate has a strange way of pulling invisible lives into the spotlight. That night was supposed to be ordinary. For Damian, it was another evening drowning in contracts and numbers. For Elena, another shift wiping down desks and emptying trash cans. But destiny has a cruel, quiet way of weaving its threads. And that night, the billionaire CEO and the poor cleaner collided. Damian sat alone in his office, the city glittering beneath him like a field of diamonds. The man owned half the skyline, yet the silence was deafening. He rubbed his temples, exhaustion sinking into his bones. Power could buy him anything, except peace. And then, a sound. The faint squeak of a mop bucket rolling across the marble hallway. He frowned. At this hour, no one dared disturb him. Rising from his chair, he opened his glass office door, and there she was, a young woman in a faded uniform, humming softly as she scrubbed the floor. Elena froze, her eyes darting up. Her heart skipped. She knew that face, everyone in the city did. Damian Blackwood. The man whose photo graced magazine covers. And here she was, a cleaner, caught with a rag in her hand. I'm sorry, sir, she stammered. I didn't mean to disturb you. Damian studied her. Most people in his building bowed, groveled, or choked on their own nerves when speaking to him. But this girl, she looked scared, yes, but there was something in her eyes. A spark. Honest. Untouched. Not calculating, not greedy. Just, real. What's your name? He asked, his voice low, smooth, but commanding. Elena, she whispered. Elena, he repeated, as if testing how her name felt in the air. He should have dismissed her, returned to his empire. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe the emptiness in his chest, maybe the fact that in this quiet moment, she was the only human in the building not afraid of him. Minutes stretched into a strange silence. And then, for reasons Damian himself couldn't explain, he spoke. Not about numbers, not about contracts, but something he hadn't said aloud in years. Do you ever feel like no matter how much you work, you're still trapped? Elena blinked. She hadn't expected a billionaire to ask her anything, let alone something so personal. But her answer came without hesitation. Every day, she said softly. But I keep working. Because someone has to. Her words hit him like a blow. For a man surrounded by liars and flatterers, Hearing raw honesty felt dangerous, and intoxicating. That was the moment. The first crack in the wall Damian Blackwood had built around himself. The minutes stretched into a conversation. Strange. Surreal. A billionaire CEO sitting on the edge of his desk, listening to a cleaner talk about her brother Miguel, about the struggles of paying rent, about dreams she never dared say aloud. And Damian found himself talking too. About pressure. About being the man everyone envied, but no one truly knew. When she laughed, soft, genuine, it startled him. Because when was the last time he'd laughed with someone who wasn't after his fortune? But fate, again, is never gentle. That night, in the silence of a glass office above the city, the line between two worlds blurred. Words became glances, glances lingered too long, and one reckless choice sealed what would become the scandal of the century. Damian Blackwood, the billionaire CEO. Elena Cruz, the poor cleaner. Two lives that never should have touched. Yet, one mistake would bind them forever. And while that night ended quietly, with the city still glittering outside, neither of them realized the storm already forming on the horizon. Because love, power, and secrets cannot stay hidden forever. And soon, whispers would turn into headlines. Friends into enemies. And a single night into a battle for survival. But that's still ahead. For now, this is just the beginning. The night the billionaire CEO noticed the poor cleaner for the first time. And nothing, would ever be the same again. When dawn came, Damian Blackwood should have forgotten the cleaner. He should have filed her name, Elena Cruz, away as nothing more than a passing shadow in his empire. Billionaires don't think twice about cleaners. But Damian did. Because something about that night, the honesty in her voice, the fearless way she answered him, stayed with him like a ghost that refused to leave. The next evening, he lingered in his office long after his meetings ended. Charles Grant, his assistant, poked his head in. "Boss, you're still here. You've got that Kingsley Gala tomorrow. You'll need rest." Damian waved him off. "Go home, Charles." Charles smirked knowingly. He'd worked for Damian long enough to notice when something, or someone, was distracting him. But he said nothing. Just closed the door with a wry grin. And sure enough, the moment the halls emptied, Damian heard it again. The faint roll of a mop bucket. The quiet humming. Elena Cruz. This time, he didn't stay inside. He stepped out, watching her from the shadows as she cleaned the polished marble. She sensed him before she saw him, turning, startled. "You again," she said softly, half embarrassed, half amused. "You say that like I planned it," Damian replied, his lips curving ever so slightly. "Didn't you?" she teased before biting her lip, realizing she may have spoken too boldly. But Damian didn't scold her. Instead, he chuckled, a sound so rare it startled even him. "No one talks to me like that." "Maybe they should," she answered, resuming her work, though her hands trembled slightly. And that was it. That invisible thread pulled tighter. Against every rule, against every barrier, Damian found himself talking again. Not about contracts or profits, but about life. Elena spoke of her younger brother Miguel, his school fees, his dreams of becoming an engineer. She spoke of Rosa, her best friend who always kept her grounded, and the weight of carrying a family on her back. And Damian found himself confessing truths he had buried. The crushing expectations of boardrooms. The hollow relationships with people who only wanted his fortune. The suffocating engagement to Vanessa Kingsley, a woman his mother adored but who he no longer trusted. Hours slipped away unnoticed. The billionaire and the cleaner, two worlds colliding in whispered conversations. But walls don't stay unbroken. Fate doesn't stay silent. That night, Damian made the mistake that would change everything. A touch lingered too long. A gaze burned too deep. Words blurred into closeness. And in one reckless heartbeat, boundaries shattered. The man with everything. The woman with nothing. Two souls locked in a secret that could destroy them both. When morning came, Damian stood by the glass window of his penthouse, watching the sun spill over the city. Elena lay asleep on his couch, her uniform folded neatly on a chair. For a fleeting moment, he felt peace, something money had never given him. But peace never lasts. Because Damian Blackwood was not an ordinary man, and Elena Cruz was not invisible anymore. The fallout began quickly. Rosa Delgado noticed first. "Elena, what's with you? You've been floating like you're walking on clouds." Elena flushed. "Nothing, Rosa. Just tired." "Don't lie to me. I've seen that look. You're glowing. Spill it." But Elena stayed silent. Fear gnawed at her. How could she explain that she had crossed into a world she didn't belong in? Meanwhile, at Blackwood Tower, Charles Grant grew suspicious. His boss was distracted, checking the time, glancing at hallways. Charles knew Damian's patterns too well, and this was not business. And then came Vanessa Kingsley. Elegant. Ruthless. Suspicious by nature. She noticed Damian's sudden late nights, his quiet mood shifts. She had invested too much, her status, her future, her power, into this engagement to let it slip. And Vanessa Kingsley never lost. But the most dangerous blow came from the outside. Harper Lee. A blogger notorious for digging scandals out of the rich and powerful. She lived for headlines, for the dirt that destroyed reputations. And whispers had already reached her ears. The untouchable Damian Blackwood had been seen, late at night, speaking to someone who didn't belong in his world. And so the stage was set. Elena, torn between fear and longing. Damian, balancing an empire while clinging to something real for the first time. Rosa, protective and worried. Charles, cautious but loyal. Vanessa, sharpening her claws. Gregory Steele, her secret ally, waiting for a weakness. Harper Lee, circling like a vulture. The secret affair was no longer a secret. It was a ticking time bomb. And when it exploded, no one, absolutely no one, would come out unscathed. But for now, Damian and Elena were still lost in the illusion. Still believing they could steal nights together. Still blind to the storm barreling toward them. Because sometimes, the most dangerous thing isn't being enemies. It's daring to fall in love across worlds that were never meant to touch. And for Damian Blackwood and Elena Cruz, the encounter had only just begun. Let me take you deeper into the fire. Damian Blackwood thought he was untouchable. Billionaire. CEO. The man whose single glance could send stocks soaring or crashing. And yet, one mistake, one vulnerable night with Elena Cruz, a poor cleaner just trying to survive, was about to set the world ablaze. At first, their secret was just that, a secret. Tucked away between stolen glances in the office hallways and the haunting memory of that night. Elena tried to bury it, telling herself it was just a mistake. Damian, though, couldn't stop thinking about her. For the first time, his cold penthouse walls felt alive. But peace never lasts long, not when jealousy and ambition lurk in the shadows. Because someone was watching. It started small, whispers. Vanessa Kingsley, Damian's glamorous fiancée, noticed his late-night absences. She wasn't the type of woman to sit quietly. Oh no. Vanessa was fire wrapped in diamonds. And when her suspicions grew, she did what she did best, investigate. And as fate would have it, Harper Lee, the ruthless blogger always sniffing around the rich and powerful, caught wind of something juicy. A billionaire CEO and a poor cleaner. That was a headline begging to explode. The first blow landed like a thunderclap. One morning, Elena walked into the office, mop in hand, only to hear whispers, sharper than knives. Her co-workers stared. Some smirked. Some pitted. She didn't know why, until Rosa, her fiery best friend, shoved a phone into her hands. And there it was. A blog headline screaming in bold letters. Billionaire Blackwood's dirty secret, the cleaner who stole his nights. Photos. Blurry but damning. A picture of Damian entering a hotel late at night. Elena spotted in the background. Her hands shook. Her breath caught. The world tilted. Rosa, this isn't real, right? Elena stammered. But Rosa's eyes hardened. It doesn't matter if it's real, girl. They made it real. And now, everyone's gonna believe it. Meanwhile, at the top floor of Blackwood Enterprises, Damian stormed into his office, Charles, his assistant, hot on his heels. Who leaked this? Damian growled, slamming the blog post onto his glass desk. Charles, cool as ever, adjusted his tie. Boss, with all due respect, you think the internet cares about truth? Scandal spreads faster than fire. And right now, you're gasoline. Damian clenched his fists. He could handle bad press, he could handle competitors, but Elena? She didn't deserve this. She was innocent in a world built to eat her alive. And yet, someone had orchestrated this perfectly. Someone who wanted him destroyed. And in her luxurious penthouse across town, Vanessa Kingsley sipped champagne, a wicked smile on her lips. Poor Elena, she purred, tossing the magazine onto her glass table. Gregory Steele, Damian's rival billionaire, sat across from her, grinning like a shark. She'll be torn apart, Gregory said smoothly. The public loves a scandal. Especially when it drags the mighty Blackwood down. Vanessa leaned back, satisfied. Exactly. He humiliated me, Gregory. Do you know what it feels like to be replaced by a cleaning girl? No, he doesn't get to walk away. This is just the beginning. But for Elena, it was hell. She couldn't walk the streets without hearing people whisper. In the grocery store, mothers pulled their children closer. At work, some laughed behind her back. Others looked at her with pity so heavy it burned. And worst of all, Miguel, her younger brother, came home from school that day with tears in his eyes. Sis, he whispered, clutching his backpack. Kids were saying you're with some billionaire. They showed me pictures. They called you names. Elena's heart broke. She pulled him close, holding him as tight as she could. She wanted to tell him it would pass. That lies fade. But deep down, she wasn't so sure. Meanwhile, Harper Lee wasn't done. Oh no, the blogger smelled blood in the water. She cornered Elena outside her apartment, flashing cameras in her face. Elena. Did you sleep your way to the top? Is Damian Blackwood leaving his fiancée for you? Are you pregnant with his child? The questions were poison darts, each one sharper than the last. Rosa leapt in, pushing Harper back. Back off, vulture. She's not your headline, she's a human being. But the damage was done. Photos of Elena's tear-streaked face plastered across social media. And the comments? Cruel. Ruthless. Millions of strangers shredding her apart without mercy. Damian couldn't take it anymore. Late one night, he showed up at Elena's small apartment, his driver waiting outside. When she opened the door, her eyes were swollen from crying. Elena, Damian's voice was low, almost breaking. I'm sorry. This is my fault. I'll fix it. She shook her head, stepping back. You can't fix this, Damian. You're untouchable. Me? I'm the one they're destroying. My brother, my life, everything is falling apart. He reached for her, desperate. Then let me protect you. I'll handle Vanessa. I'll silence Harper. But Elena cut him off, her voice trembling. No. This isn't about silencing them. It's about us. And right now, there is no us. The words shattered him. But she was right. Their worlds weren't built to fit together. Not when money and power made her a target. Back at Blackwood Enterprises, Charles delivered another blow. "Boss, it's worse. Stockholders are panicking. The board wants answers. They're questioning your leadership." Damian slammed his fist against the desk. "All because of a damn headline." Charles sighed. "Not the headline. The image. The idea. People love to see kings bleed. And right now, they're sharpening their knives." And as Damian tried to contain the storm, Vanessa and Gregory poured gasoline on the fire. More stories leaked. Anonymous sources claimed Elena was demanding hush money. Others whispered she was pregnant. The scandal spun so far out of control, it felt unstoppable. Elena's name trended worldwide, but not as the hard-working girl she truly was. No. She was branded a gold digger. A homewrecker. A scandal in human form. And Damian? His empire trembled. Investors fled. His board turned against him. And for the first time in his powerful life, he felt powerless. But what no one knew yet, was that this storm was only Act 3. The real war hadn't even begun. Because scandals don't just break, they destroy. And sometimes, they rebuild. The question now was simple. Would Damian and Elena survive the fire, or be consumed by it? When the dust of a scandal settles, what's left isn't silence, it's fallout. And for Damian Blackwood and Elena Cruz, the fallout was brutal. The headlines wouldn't stop. Every hour, new stories surfaced. Damian's face plastered on TV screens, Elena's name dragged across gossip blogs, and Vanessa Kingsley. Oh, she wasn't hiding anymore. She was front and center, crying crocodile tears on camera, playing the role of the heartbroken fiancée. She stood before flashing cameras, her voice breaking just enough to look believable. "After everything Damian and I built together, to be betrayed like this, by a cleaning girl. I never thought love could hurt so much." Her sobs were perfect. Her makeup flawless. And the world ate it up. Sympathy poured in. Damian became the villain. Elena became the thief who stole another woman's happily ever after. But behind the cameras, Vanessa was steel. She stormed into Damian's penthouse one night, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor. "Damian," she spat, throwing a magazine onto the table. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me? To us? I am the woman you were supposed to marry. And you threw it all away for a cleaner." Damian's jaw tightened, his voice low. "Vanessa, this isn't your business anymore." Her laughter was sharp, venomous. "Not my business. Damian, I am your business. You think you can humiliate me publicly and just walk away? No. If I go down, I'm dragging you with me." Their eyes locked. A war had begun. Meanwhile, Elena was drowning. Her small apartment became a prison. Cameras camped outside, journalists shoved microphones in her face. Rosa fought them off daily, her sharp tongue lashing at anyone who dared get too close. But Elena's spirit was breaking. Every insult online, every whisper in the streets, every cruel laugh at her expense, it chipped away at her. One night, she sat on her bed, Miguel asleep beside her, his small hand clutching hers. She looked at her brother's peaceful face and whispered, "I don't know how much longer I can do this." Rosa, sitting on the floor with crossed arms, shook her head. "Listen to me, Elena. You're stronger than you think. These rich people. They play dirty. But you've survived worse. You didn't come this far to let them win. You keep standing, for Miguel. For yourself." Elena wiped her tears, nodding. But deep inside, she wasn't sure she believed it. And as Elena fought to survive, Damian was fighting battles of his own. At Blackwood Enterprises, the board of directors called an emergency meeting. The room was thick with tension. Stockholders panicked. Investors threatened to pull out. "Damian," one board member barked, "your personal scandal is now our company's crisis. You've jeopardized everything." Damian's voice was calm, but his eyes were fire. "This company was built on my vision. My leadership. Not tabloid headlines." Another snapped, "Vision doesn't pay when shareholders lose millions overnight." Charles Grant, his loyal assistant, leaned forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "Gentlemen, let's not pretend morality drives Wall Street. Scandals come and go. What matters is how fast we clean it up. And Damian Blackwood knows how to clean up messes better than anyone." The room quieted, but the damage was done. Damian knew, his empire was bleeding. And then came the confrontation he wasn't ready for. Elena. She showed up at his office late one evening, Rosa waiting outside. When she walked in, Damian looked up, exhaustion etched across his face. "Elena," he whispered. Her eyes burned with hurt. "Why didn't you stop this? You have power, Damian. You could have shut them down. Instead, I'm the one they're destroying. My brother, my life, all of it's on fire. And you're still sitting in your glass tower." Damian stood, guilt tightening his chest. "I tried. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted you to be dragged through hell? Vanessa. Gregory, they orchestrated this. I'm fighting them every day, Elena." Her voice cracked. "And what about me? Did you think of me when you let this happen? Because I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be your secret. I didn't ask to be the woman the world spits on." He stepped closer, his voice low, desperate. "Elena. I care about you. More than I can say. And I'll fix this. I promise you, I'll fix it." She looked at him, pain and love warring in her eyes, then she shook her head. "Promises don't erase scars, Damian." And she walked away. But while Damian and Elena tore themselves apart, Vanessa and Gregory plotted their next move. In a dimly lit lounge, Vanessa leaned over the table, her eyes cold. "The scandal isn't enough. We need to finish him. If Damian loses his empire, he loses everything. And when he's nothing, Elena will leave him. People like her don't stay for love, they stay for power." Gregory smirked, swirling his glass of whiskey. "Then we attack his empire. Stocks. Contracts. Deals. I'll use my leverage, and you keep bleeding him in the press. By the time we're done, Damian Blackwood will be a king without a crown." They clinked glasses, sealing the deal. But Harper Lee wasn't done either. The ruthless blogger smelled the next chapter of blood. She dug deeper, searching for dirt. What she didn't know was that Damian's empire wasn't the only thing with secrets. Elena had one too. A secret she never wanted revealed. Back in Elena's apartment, Rosa caught her staring at an old envelope, tucked beneath her bed. "What's that?" Rosa asked softly. Elena's eyes filled with fear. "Nothing. Just, something from the past. Something I hoped would never come back." She shoved it away. But the camera lingered in the story, because we knew that envelope was going to matter. The fallout was spreading like wildfire. The scandal had already destroyed reputations, friendships, and peace of mind. And now, the stage was set for confrontation. Vanessa wasn't done with Damian. Damian wasn't done with Gregory. Elena wasn't done with the world that branded her a villain. And Harper Lee, she was about to uncover the one secret that could blow everything wide open. Because in a war of love and power, the truth isn't the weapon. It's the battlefield. Every story reaches a moment where the pieces no longer fit the way they once did. And for Damian Blackwood and Elena Cruz, that moment had arrived. The war was already raging, between headlines, betrayals, and whispered secrets. But now, the battlefield was shifting. And the first crack came from the most unlikely place, Charles Grant. For weeks, Charles had played the quiet observer. Damian's assistant, his voice of reason, the man who always stood just outside the spotlight. But that night, in Damian's office, he finally spoke truths his boss didn't want to hear. "Damian," Charles said, setting a folder on the desk, "you've been fighting Vanessa and Gregory like it's a chess game. But you're blind to one thing, Elena isn't your pawn. She's your queen. And if you don't start protecting her like it, you're going to lose her. Not to Vanessa. Not to Gregory. To herself." Damian's hands clenched into fists. His empire, his reputation, he could fight for those. But Elena? She was slipping away, retreating into silence, carrying wounds he couldn't see. Charles pushed the folder closer. "I dug into Gregory Steele's finances. He's not just helping Vanessa for revenge. He's buying up contracts, investors, even board members from under you. This isn't just about Elena. This is about a takeover. And if you don't act now, Blackwood Enterprises will belong to Steele within months." Damian's face hardened. The game had changed. But while Damian plotted his next move, Elena was facing a turning point of her own. She returned home late one evening to find Miguel awake, the envelope she'd hidden now sitting on the table. "Lena," he whispered, "why didn't you tell me?" Inside the envelope were letters. Old, worn, but still sharp enough to cut. They revealed Elena's father hadn't just abandoned the family, he'd left debts, dangerous ones. Men her family still owed. And now, with the scandal making her name famous, those men were circling back, smelling opportunity. Elena's heart raced. She had hidden this truth for years, protecting Miguel from it. But now it threatened to destroy them both. Rosa, who had come over to check in, slammed her fist against the counter. "This is it, isn't it? This is why you always worked double shifts, why you never let anyone in. Elena, you need to tell Damian. He has the power to protect you." But Elena shook her head. "No. He can't fix this. If I let him in, I'm nothing but another problem he has to solve. I won't be his burden." Her words were strong. But her hands trembled as she tucked the letters away again. Meanwhile, Vanessa was celebrating. In a private dinner with Gregory Steele, she raised her glass, a satisfied smirk on her lips. "The world thinks I'm the victim. The press adores me. And Damian? He's on the ropes. Soon, he'll lose everything. And when he does, Elena will realize she tied herself to a sinking ship." Gregory leaned back, amused. "You sound almost convinced, Vanessa." "Almost. But let's be honest, you don't just want Damian ruined. You want him begging." Her eyes gleamed. "Exactly. And when that happens, I'll be the one holding the knife." They laughed, but in that laughter was a dangerous truth. Vanessa didn't just want revenge. She wanted annihilation. But then, came the twist no one saw coming. Harper Lee, the ruthless blogger who had fanned the flames of the scandal, stumbled across something bigger than she expected. In chasing down Elena's past, she uncovered a secret link between Vanessa Kingsley and Gregory Steele. Not just allies. Not just business partners. Lovers. Late-night photos. Leaked texts. Meetings in hidden corners of the city. The evidence was undeniable. Harper sat at her desk, staring at the files, her grin sharp. "Oh, Vanessa. You've been crying to the cameras while sneaking into Gregory's bed. If the world sees this, the victim becomes the villain. And I become the queen of the story." For once, Damian and Elena weren't the headline. Vanessa was. The next morning, Damian woke to chaos, not about him, but about Vanessa. Harper's exposé hit the internet like wildfire. News anchors spoke her name with shock. Social media erupted. The scorned fiancé wasn't so scorned after all, one anchor mocked. Damian smirked, almost tasting victory. But Charles, ever cautious, warned him. Don't celebrate too soon. Gregory is ruthless. He won't let Vanessa's exposure drag him down. He'll double his attack on you. And Gregory did. Within hours, he made a public statement, distancing himself from Vanessa, framing her as a manipulative woman who had tricked him. He painted himself as the victim. The cunning move kept his reputation intact, while Vanessa burned alone. But Vanessa wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. She stormed into Gregory's penthouse, rage dripping from every word. You used me. You threw me to the wolves. Gregory's smirk was cold. You wanted revenge. I wanted power. We both got what we wanted. But now? You're nothing but a liability. Her voice cracked with fury. You think I'll just disappear? No, Gregory. If I go down, I'll make sure Damian knows every dirty deal you've ever made. You're not untouchable. Gregory's smile faded. For the first time, a flicker of danger passed between them. The alliance had shattered. And so the battlefield shifted again. Damian wasn't the only one with enemies anymore. Vanessa and Gregory were now at war with each other. Harper was the wild card, feeding the flames for her own gain. And Elena? She held a secret no one else knew, one that could destroy everything if it came to light. The turning point had arrived. Damian stood at his office window, staring at the city below, Charles by his side. They're eating each other alive, Damian muttered. Charles raised an eyebrow. And what about you? What's your move? Damian's jaw tightened. My move is Elena. If I lose her, none of this matters. I need to win her back. Protect her. Even if it means burning everything else to the ground. And in her small apartment, Elena whispered to Rosa, I'm not sure I can trust him. But I'm also not sure I can survive this alone. Her words hung in the air, fragile and raw. Because in that moment, Elena wasn't just fighting for her heart. She was fighting for her life. The stage was no longer just about love. It was about survival. And in this war of betrayal and secrets, no one was safe. Not even the ones who thought they were winning. Damian Blackwood had always been known as a man who never lost. In business, in power, in control, he was the wolf in a world of sheep. But for the first time in years, he felt cornered. Betrayed. And strangely enough, his only source of strength was the very woman he once thought beneath his world, Elena Cruz. After weeks of humiliation in the press, with Harper Lee's scandalous blogs tearing his name apart and Vanessa's whispers fueling the fire, Damian finally snapped back into his element. He walked into his office like a king reclaiming his throne. Charles, his assistant, trailed behind nervously, holding a stack of files. Shall we burn them, sir? Charles asked, half joking, half serious. Damian smirked. No, Charles. We won't burn them. We'll expose them. All of them. This was the Damian Blackwood people feared, cold, calculating, dangerous. If Vanessa thought she could break him, if Gregory Steele believed he could steal his empire, then they were about to learn why Damian was untouchable. That night, Damian began digging into Vanessa's secret finances, pulling strings that only a billionaire with reach could tug at. Offshore accounts. Wire transfers. And worse, private meetings between Vanessa and Gregory. While Damian was plotting his corporate war, Elena's world was falling apart. Her brother, Miguel, had been sick for weeks. Medical bills piled higher than she could count. And now, the loan sharks she borrowed money from were at her doorstep. They slammed their fists on her small apartment door, demanding payment. 2 weeks late, Elena, the leader growled. Do you think kindness pays the bills? Tears welled in Elena's eyes, but she stood her ground. Rosa, her best friend, barged in and tried to defend her, mouthing off at the men with fiery boldness. But Rosa's words were no match for debt collectors with fists. Just when it seemed like they'd break in, a sleek black car pulled up. The debtors froze. A suited driver stepped out. And from the back seat, Damian Blackwood himself. Elena's heart skipped. She hadn't seen him since the scandal broke. He looked at her, not as a billionaire, not as a man above her, but as someone who was about to protect her. For the first time, she realized maybe, she wasn't fighting her battles alone. Meanwhile, the battlefield was shifting. Gregory Steele was growing impatient with Vanessa. The more she obsessed over Damian, the more reckless her decisions became. Gregory wanted Damian's empire, not Damian's humiliation. And in the world of billionaires, loyalty lasts only as long as it profits you. Gregory began whispering to Damian's board members, offering them deals, tempting them with promises. But one man, Charles, Damian's assistant, overheard enough to realize that the board itself was starting to fracture. At the same time, Harper Lee, the ruthless blogger, was reconsidering her role. The scandal had made her famous overnight, but deep inside, she smelled a bigger story. A story not about Damian's sins, but about the conspiracy around him. Harper started digging. And what she found, Vanessa's alliance with Gregory, the staged leaks, the betrayal, was bigger than anything she had written before. That night, Damian visited Elena's small apartment. It was humble, too humble for a man of his stature. He stood in silence for a moment, looking at Miguel asleep on the couch, tubes and medicine scattered on the table. Elena watched him. For the first time, Damian Blackwood looked human. Vulnerable. He turned to her. Elena. I can fight my battles. But you shouldn't have to fight yours alone. Let me help. Elena, torn between pride and desperation, hesitated. She didn't want to be seen as his charity. She wanted her dignity. But when Damian placed an envelope on the table, a thick envelope filled with cash, her hands trembled. It wasn't just money. It was a lifeline. A promise. And for the first time, Elena didn't see him as the billionaire who ruined her life, but as the man who might just save it. By the week's end, alliances had shifted completely. Harper Lee, once Damian's destroyer, now hunted Vanessa and Gregory for a bigger story. Gregory, tired of Vanessa's obsession, began plotting against her in secret. And Damian, fueled by his anger and newfound resolve, was no longer just defending his name. He was preparing to destroy anyone who dared betray him. But in all this chaos, Elena became his anchor. He had power. She had heart. Together, they were dangerous. And as the city whispered about scandals, betrayals, and billionaire wars, one truth became clear. This was no longer about love or lust. This was war. When power collides with betrayal, masks begin to fall. And in Damian Blackwood's world, everyone wore a mask. But in Act 7, secrets unravel, enemies collide, and the line between friend and foe becomes almost invisible. Vanessa Kingsley was unraveling. She once held the perfect facade, graceful, flawless, admired by society's elite. But now, jealousy was eating her alive. She sat in her penthouse, glass of wine trembling in her hand, replaying the scandal over and over. Elena Cruz. A cleaner. A nobody. How dare Damian humiliate her like this? Gregory Steele entered, his smile cool and predatory. Vanessa, you're slipping. Obsession makes you sloppy. Remember, I'm here for Damian's empire, not your broken heart. But Vanessa sneered. Damian is mine. And if I can't have him, I'll destroy him. And her. Gregory's eyes narrowed. He realized then. Vanessa wasn't an ally. She was a liability. Meanwhile, Elena was drowning in guilt. Damian had paid off her debtors, yes. But what about her pride? What about her dignity? She sat by Miguel's bedside, stroking his hair as he slept. The boy looked so fragile, so innocent. He was her world. And yet, she feared she had sold pieces of her soul just to keep him safe. Rosa Delgado burst into the room, full of fire. Elena, listen to me. You think Damian is helping you out of kindness? Maybe. But maybe he needs you just as much as you need him. Don't shrink yourself. Don't let them shame you. Elena looked at her friend, torn. Could it be true? Could Damian Blackwood, the untouchable billionaire, actually need her? At the Blackwood headquarters, Damian was waging war on every front. The boardroom smelled of fear as he slammed down evidence of Gregory Steele's secret deals. Offshore transfers, bribery, leaked documents, it was all there. The board squirmed. Gregory's grip was slipping. And for the first time in weeks, Damian felt control returning to his hands. But Charles, ever the voice of reason, leaned close. Sir, Vanessa knows more about you than anyone alive. If she turns all her weapons against you, it won't be business war. It'll be personal. Damian's jaw tightened. He had fought rivals, traitors, and billionaires. But Vanessa? She knew his weaknesses. His secrets. Even the parts of him he wished Elena would never see. And then there was Harper Lee, the blogger whose words had set this entire fire ablaze. She had lived for clicks, fame, scandal, but now she found herself staring at a bigger story. Her investigation revealed Vanessa's secret alliance with Gregory, the staged leaks, the manipulation. And suddenly, Damian wasn't just a scandal. He was a target. Harper sat alone at her desk, torn. If she revealed the truth, she'd become a hero. But she'd also make enemies powerful enough to bury her. She whispered to herself. Do I burn Damian, or do I burn them? For the first time, Harper Lee felt fear. One evening, Damian visited Elena again. This time, not as a rescuer, but as a man stripped of his armor. He found her sitting on the apartment balcony, staring at the city lights. She didn't rise when he entered. For a long moment, neither spoke. The billionaire and the cleaner. Two worlds colliding, silently. Finally, Damian said. Elena, when this all began, I thought I was the one in control. But I see now, you make me want to fight. Not just for myself. But for something real. Her heart pounded. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust him. But the pain, the humiliation, the imbalance between them, it was too much. She turned, eyes glistening. Damian, I can't be your secret. Not your shame. Not your mistake. The words cut him deeper than any scandal ever had. And just as Damian's heart cracked, Vanessa made her move. She leaked a video. A carefully edited, damning video, showing Damian leaving Elena's apartment late at night. The implication? A billionaire sleeping with a maid, betraying his fiancée, shaming his empire. The internet exploded. Harper's blogs went viral again. Stock prices trembled. And Elena? She walked to work the next morning to find whispers, stares, and cruel laughter following her like a shadow. Rosa cursed at the gossips, defending her friend. But Elena felt the weight crushing her chest. Her life, her dignity, destroyed in the blink of an eye. Gregory Steele, watching the chaos unfold, smirked. But privately, he began to plot Vanessa's downfall. She was too reckless. Too unstable. He had used her obsession long enough. Now, she was expendable. He whispered to his men. Find something. Anything. A weakness. When she falls, I'll own everything. And for the first time, Vanessa's perfect facade began to crack. She didn't realize it yet, but her greatest ally had just become her deadliest enemy. Damian stood on the balcony of his skyscraper office, the city lights flickering below. He had lost battles before, but this was war. Charles entered, holding a phone. His face was pale. "Sir, you need to see this. Harper Lee. She wants to meet. She says, she has proof of a conspiracy against you." Damian's eyes narrowed. Harper Lee, the very woman who ruined him, was now reaching out. Was it a trap? Or was it the key to finally destroying Vanessa and Gregory? Meanwhile, across town, Elena held Miguel's hand, whispering prayers. She didn't know if Damian could protect her anymore. And worse, she didn't know if she wanted him to. The storm had broken. Masks were falling. And the war was just beginning. But in a war where billionaires play with power and pawns, sometimes the pawns become queens. When lies reach their peak, the truth strikes like lightning. And in Damian Blackwood's world, that lightning was about to hit harder than anyone expected. Harper Lee sat across from Damian in a dimly lit cafe. She was nervous, constantly glancing over her shoulder. For the first time, the ruthless blogger looked human, afraid. "Mr. Blackwood," she whispered, sliding a folder across the table, "you've been fighting the wrong war. Vanessa and Gregory. They've been orchestrating everything. The leaks, the rumors, the betrayals, it was all staged. I have proof." Damian opened the folder. Inside were emails, secret recordings, financial transfers, all pointing to Vanessa and Gregory's alliance. His stomach tightened. The woman he almost married had conspired with his oldest rival. And together, they'd nearly destroyed him. But Harper wasn't finished. "They're planning something bigger. A public exposure that will bury you for good. Unless," she hesitated. "Unless I release the truth first." Damian studied her. Could he trust the woman who had already ruined him once? Or was this just another trap? Vanessa Kingsley stormed into Gregory Steele's private penthouse, her heels striking like gunshots. She had just seen Harper's latest teaser post, a cryptic promise of an exposé that would shake the city. "You told me you had this under control," Vanessa hissed. "If Harper turns against us, everything falls apart." Gregory didn't flinch. He swirled his whiskey lazily. "Calm yourself, Vanessa. You wanted Damian destroyed. Look around, his reputation is shattered, his company trembling, his cleaner girl humiliated. Isn't that enough?" Vanessa's voice dripped venom. "No. It's not enough until Elena Cruz is crushed. Until Damian begs me on his knees. Do you hear me? Begging." Gregory smirked, but behind his eyes, a new calculation formed. Vanessa's obsession wasn't strategy, it was madness. And madness had no place in his empire. For the first time, Gregory Steele realized Vanessa Kingsley was no partner. She was a ticking bomb. At the same time, Elena Cruz was blindsided. She walked into work to find cameras flashing in her face. Reporters swarmed, shouting her name. "Elena, did Damian Blackwood pay you off? Were you his mistress? Do you love him, or was this just money?" Her hands trembled. She had never asked for fame, never asked for scandal. She was just a woman who wanted to feed her brother and survive. Rosa shoved through the crowd, pulling her away. "Keep your head high, Elena. They want to break you, but don't give them the satisfaction." Elena's heart pounded. But deep down, she knew, whether she wanted it or not, she was now part of Damian's war. Damian stormed into his boardroom the next morning. Waiting for him were the sharks, shareholders, lawyers, and Gregory Steele himself, smug as ever. Gregory rose, voice booming. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you let scandal taint leadership. Damian Blackwood has turned this empire into a circus. I propose a vote. Remove him as CEO. Gasps filled the room. Damian's empire, ripped from his hands. But before anyone could speak, the doors burst open. And there stood Harper Lee, flanked by cameras. She held up her phone. Before you cast that vote, perhaps you should see the truth. On the screen, Vanessa's voice rang out in a secret recording. Leak it all. I don't care how. Gregory wants Damian destroyed, and I want that maid crawling back into the gutter. The room exploded in whispers. Damian's enemies froze, their scheme exposed in front of the world. Gregory's face twisted. Vanessa's betrayal had been revealed, not just to Damian, but to him. Vanessa burst into the boardroom seconds later, realizing Harper had played her hand. Her eyes darted to Gregory, full of rage. You set me up, she screamed. But Gregory only laughed. No, Vanessa. You set yourself up. You were too loud, too desperate. And now? You're nothing more than collateral damage. The confrontation spiraled. Vanessa lunged at him, security rushing to hold her back. Gregory, cool as ice, simply adjusted his tie. Two snakes had finally turned on each other. And Damian stood in the middle, watching enemies destroy themselves. While chaos unfolded, Elena sat alone, watching it all on a small television. Her name, her face, plastered across every headline. She wasn't just a cleaner anymore. She was the mistress, the scandal, the poor girl who brought down a billionaire. Tears burned her eyes. Miguel clutched her hand, whispering, "Don't let them break you, Elena. You're stronger than this." But inside, she wondered if Damian was worth it. If love, or whatever it was growing between them, was worth the humiliation she endured. In that moment, Elena Cruz realized, her greatest fight wasn't against Vanessa, or Gregory, or the press. It was against herself. Against the doubt that whispered she didn't belong in Damian's world. Damian stood at the head of the boardroom table, silence now gripping the room. The evidence had spoken. Vanessa's mask had shattered. Gregory's schemes were bleeding out. For the first time in weeks, Damian's voice carried steady and unshaken. I am Damian Blackwood. This empire was built with my blood, my sweat, my vision. And no scandal, no betrayal, no conspiracy will take it from me. Not now. Not ever. The board erupted in applause. Gregory glared, Vanessa shrieked, but the tide had turned. Damian Blackwood had reclaimed his throne. But victory came at a cost. Because outside those corporate walls, the world wasn't cheering. The world wanted answers. Paparazzi swarmed Damian's car, cameras flashing. And at the center of it all, Elena. She stood frozen, caught in the chaos. Reporters screamed. Damian. Is she your lover? Elena. Do you love him? Will you two admit the truth? Damian reached for her hand, his grip strong, defiant. For the first time, he didn't hide her. He didn't deny her. And in that single moment, Damian Blackwood and Elena Cruz, billionaire and cleaner, were forced into the spotlight together. No more secrets. No more shadows. The war had shifted. The conspiracy was broken. But the battle for love, dignity, and survival? That had only just begun. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where everything comes crashing down. The scandal is out. The world knows. And Damian Blackwood, the billionaire CEO, and Elena Cruz, the poor cleaner who never asked for any of this, now face the moment that will either break them apart, or finally bind them together. So picture this. Damian is sitting alone in his glass-walled penthouse office. The city lights flicker beneath him, but he doesn't feel powerful anymore. His phone won't stop buzzing, calls from shareholders, board members, even his own fiancée, Vanessa. Every headline screams his name. Every whisper in the corporate world says the same thing, the mighty Blackwood has fallen. And across town, Elena is curled up in her tiny bedroom. Her brother Miguel is asleep beside her, his schoolbook scattered across the bed. She clutches her phone, scrolling through hateful comments online. Gold digger. Trash. She ruined him. The words cut deep. She never wanted this spotlight. She only wanted to clean, work hard, and provide a better life for Miguel. But now, her name is tied to Damian's. Forever. Movie camera cut to the confrontation. The next morning, Elena shows up at Damian's office, not dressed as the cleaner anymore, but as herself. Simple jeans, a sweater, her hair tied back. When she walks in, the staff stare, whisper, some even sneer. But Elena keeps walking. Inside the office, Damian looks up. His eyes are red, his face unshaven. He almost looks human. Not the cold billionaire everyone fears. Elena, he whispers, standing, but unsure whether to step closer. And then, boom, the emotions spill out. Elena doesn't hold back. Do you realize what you've done to my life, Damian? One night, one mistake, and now everything I worked for, everything I am, is gone. I'm a joke to the world now. Damian tries to reach for her hand, but she pulls back. Elena, I never meant for this to happen. I care about you. More than I should. And I can't stand seeing you hurt because of me. Her laugh is bitter, filled with tears. Care. Damian, caring doesn't fix this. Caring won't stop the articles. Caring won't pay Miguel's school fees when I lose my job because no one wants to hire me after this scandal. Do you really think love is enough to survive this storm? Silence. Heavy silence. And then Damian speaks, with the kind of raw honesty no one has ever heard from him before. I've built empires. I've crushed rivals. I've faced hostile takeovers worth billions, but this? Losing you. Elena, that terrifies me more than anything. I don't care if the board throws me out, I don't care if I lose everything. The only thing I can't lose, is you. Performing arts, the tension is unbearable. Elena's tears fall freely now. She wants to believe him, God, she does, but the fear of the world outside is louder than his promises. She turns away, whispering, Damian, if we do this, if we stand together, we'll be hated. We'll be mocked. We'll be destroyed in ways you can't even imagine. But Damian steps forward, gently lifting her chin until their eyes meet. Then let them hate us. Let them try. Because I would rather lose the world than lose you. And right there, Elena's resolve breaks. She crumbles into his arms, sobbing against his chest. For the first time, Damian doesn't feel like the billionaire CEO. He doesn't feel untouchable. He feels like a man, broken, scared, desperate for the woman he loves. Elena clings to him, whispering, I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. And Damian holds her tighter. Then let me be strong for both of us. Movie camera cutaway moment for the audience. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, the story shifts. Because now, it's no longer about money. It's no longer about scandals. It's no longer about a billionaire and a cleaner. It's about two people, one powerful, one powerless, deciding if their love is worth the war they're about to face. Broken heart, but of course, the world isn't going to make it easy. The board calls an emergency meeting. Shareholders are demanding Damian's resignation. Vanessa, oh, she's furious. She won't let Damian walk away without a fight. And Gregory Steele? He's circling like a shark, ready to take over everything Damian built. But none of that matters in this moment. Because in the middle of chaos, Damian and Elena make a choice. They're going to fight. Together. Damian takes Elena's hand, right there, in front of the entire board of directors, journalists, and even Vanessa, who watches with venom in her eyes. Cameras flash. Voices rise. The room erupts in chaos. But Damian's voice cuts through everything. Yes, it's true. Elena and I were together. And I won't apologize for it. She is not a mistake. She is not a scandal. She is the woman I love. And if that means losing my company, my reputation, my fortune, so be it. Elena squeezes his hand, trembling, but she doesn't let go. For the first time, she finds her voice. I didn't choose this life. I didn't want the attention. But I will not let anyone shame me for loving him. Not anymore. And just like that, the world sees it. Not a scandal. Not a billionaire and a cleaner. But a man and a woman, standing against everything. Ladies and gentlemen, if you thought the storm was bad in Act 9, get ready. Because in this act, the hurricane hits full force. Vanessa Kingsley and Gregory Steele have been waiting for this moment. Their revenge is planned, ruthless, and perfectly timed. And Damian Blackwood? He's about to find out what it means to lose everything, unless he and Elena stand together. The ballroom of the Kingsley Hotel is packed. It's supposed to be a charity gala, but Vanessa has turned it into a battlefield. Everyone who's anyone is there, investors, media moguls, politicians. And at the center of it all, Vanessa takes the stage in a glittering gown, her smile sharp as a knife. Ladies and gentlemen, she begins, her voice dripping with venom wrapped in sugar. Thank you for coming tonight. I'd like to make a little announcement. About a man you all know. Damian Blackwood. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Cameras turn. Phones go up. Vanessa continues, you see, while Damian was promising me forever, he was also busy with a poor cleaner from his office. She pauses for dramatic effect, then drops the bomb, and I have proof. On the massive screen behind her, pictures flash, grainy, stolen, intimate shots of Damian and Elena together. Hugging. Laughing. Kissing. The crowd explodes with whispers and gasps. Elena, watching from the side, feels her stomach drop. Her worst nightmare has come true, the world now sees her as nothing more than Damian's scandal. While Vanessa is busy destroying Damian's reputation socially, Gregory Steele makes his move financially. At that very moment, Damian's board of directors is in chaos. Gregory has swooped in, offering to buy controlling shares at a ridiculous discount. Blackwood Industries is finished, he tells them smoothly. But with me in charge, your money is safe. Cut him loose. Let him drown. One by one, board members cave. Shares are sold. Damian's empire starts crumbling right before his eyes. Back in Damian's penthouse, Elena paces the floor. Rosa tries to comfort her, but Elena is inconsolable. This is my fault, she cries. I never should have let him into my life. Look at what's happening, he's losing everything because of me. But Rosa, ever the loyal friend, grabs her shoulders. No, Elena. This isn't your fault. Vanessa and Gregory would have found another way to ruin him. The question is, are you going to run, or are you going to fight? And that is the turning point. The next day, Damian calls a press conference. The world expects him to grovel, to apologize, maybe even to deny everything. But instead, he walks on stage holding Elena's hand. Cameras flash like lightning. The tension is suffocating. Damian takes a breath, his voice steady. Yes, the rumors are true. I love Elena Cruz. She is not a scandal. She is not a mistake. She is my choice. And if that costs me my fortune, my company, my so-called reputation, then so be it. The reporters erupt. Questions fly. What about your engagement to Vanessa? What about Gregory Steele's takeover? What about your shareholders? Damian raises his hand, silencing them. Vanessa was never the woman I loved. And Gregory Steele will not destroy me. Not because of money. Not because of lies. Because the truth is stronger than any empire. And the truth is this, Elena and I are not ashamed. Not anymore. Everyone expected Damian to speak. No one expected Elena to step forward. But she does. Her voice trembles at first, but grows stronger with each word. I am not from your world. I don't have money. I don't have power. I'm just a cleaner. But I refuse to be defined by shame. I refuse to be treated as less than human. And I refuse to walk away from the man who has shown me more love and respect than anyone else ever has. For a moment, silence. Then, applause. Slow at first, then louder. A section of the crowd actually stands, clapping for her bravery. And in that moment, Elena, poor, powerless Elena, takes the power back. Vanessa is watching the broadcast live from her hotel suite, champagne glass in hand. At first, she's smirking. But then, her face falls. The tide is turning. The narrative is slipping. People aren't laughing at Elena. They're sympathizing with her. Her phone buzzes. Gregory. Vanessa, this isn't working. The board's starting to hesitate. If Damian pulls through, our plan is finished. Vanessa's eyes burn with rage. No. I won't let him win. I'll ruin her if it's the last thing I do. But fate has other plans. Because Harper Lee, the ruthless journalist who once fueled the scandal, suddenly flips the script. In a shocking article, she exposes Vanessa's manipulations and Gregory's attempted takeover. Screenshots, leaked emails, voice recordings, it's all there. Vanessa thought Harper was her ally. But Harper only ever had one loyalty, the story. And this betrayal is juicier. Vanessa's reputation. Destroyed. Gregory's scheme. Exposed. Their revenge. Dead on arrival. The press conference ends with Damian and Elena walking out hand in hand. Outside, crowds are waiting. Some cheer, some sneer, but none can deny it, the billionaire CEO and the poor cleaner have faced the storm and survived. Back in the penthouse later that night, Elena looks out over the city lights, tears glistening in her eyes. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, she whispers. Damian wraps his arms around her from behind. Tomorrow doesn't matter. As long as I have you, I have everything. And for the first time in a long time, Damian Blackwood is no longer alone. Because against all odds, against the power of wealth, envy, and revenge, love has won. Ladies and gentlemen, after betrayal, heartbreak, and war, after Vanessa's fall and Gregory's schemes collapsing, the story of Damian Blackwood and Elena Cruz comes to its final chapter. And trust me, this ending, it's one you won't forget. The morning after the press conference feels strangely quiet. For the first time in weeks, Damian wakes up without panic clawing at his chest. The company is bruised but alive. His enemies have been exposed. But the cost? Immense. His board is fractured. His investors are nervous. And the media? They're still buzzing like hornets, dissecting every word he and Elena said. Charles Grant, his ever-loyal assistant, walks in with coffee and a smirk. Well, boss, congratulations. You've officially made history, first billionaire to tell the world he's in love with a janitor. Should I get that engraved on a plaque? Damian chuckles, but it's a tired laugh. I didn't do it for history, Charles. I did it for her. Charles nods, his sarcasm softening. I know. And that's why it worked. Meanwhile, Elena is back at the small apartment she shares with Miguel. The place feels different now. Once, it was just survival, working shifts, paying rent, keeping her little brother's dreams alive. But now? Now it feels like a crossroads. Rosa sits on the couch, scrolling through her phone, snickering. Girl, you're trending. Half the world is calling you the Cinderella of Wall Street. The other half is asking if you've got a twin sister. Elena groans, burying her face in her hands. I didn't ask for this attention. Rosa grins. No, but maybe you deserve it. You worked your whole life in the shadows. Maybe it's time the world sees you. Then Miguel, her sweet little brother, runs in holding a sketch pad. Lena, look. I drew us in a big house. One with a garden. Do you think, maybe one day? Elena's heart swells. She hugs him tight. One day, Miguel. One day. And in that moment, she realizes, no matter how terrifying the future feels, she's no longer fighting alone. Now, what about our villains? Vanessa Kingsley, once the queen of New York high society, now a ghost of her former self. The scandal has destroyed her brand. Invitations dry up. Friends vanish. Even her father cuts ties, ashamed of her betrayal. In a desperate move, she tries to flee the country, but the paparazzi catch her at the airport, humiliated, broken. Her empire is ashes. And Gregory Steele? He's worse off. Harper Lee's exposé reveals not only his shady takeover attempt but also past business crimes. Investigators swarm his office. Lawsuits pile up. The man who thought he'd replace Damian Blackwood ends up fighting to stay out of prison. Their alliance, once so dangerous, crumbles under the weight of greed and betrayal. And Harper Lee, the journalist who started this fire? She publishes one final piece, this time, not about scandal, but about redemption. Her article is titled, The Cleaner Who Cleaned the Billionaire's Heart. In it, she writes, for once, love wasn't scripted by wealth or power. It came from humility, resilience, and courage. Elena Cruz didn't just survive the storm. She transformed it. And just like that, public opinion shifts. Slowly, grudgingly, the world begins to see Elena not as Damian's mistake, but as his strength. Weeks later, Damian invites Elena to the rooftop of Blackwood Tower, the very place where so much of their story began. The city skyline glitters below, the wind carrying a new kind of silence. Damian turns to her, his usual confidence faltering. Elena, I've lost money. I've lost partners. I've lost friends. But when I thought I might lose you, he pauses, swallowing hard. That was the only time I was truly afraid. He drops to one knee. A small velvet box opens. The diamond catches the city lights, but it's not the jewel that makes Elena gasp, it's the sincerity in his eyes. Elena Cruz, Damian says softly, I don't care about the scandals, the whispers, the wars. I care about you. Will you marry me? Tears stream down Elena's cheeks. For a moment, she sees her entire journey, scrubbing floors, hiding her pain, dreaming of a better life for Miguel, and now this man, this billionaire, asking to share his life with her. She nods through her tears. Yes, Damian. Yes. They kiss beneath the city lights, sealing not just a proposal, but a new beginning. The wedding is small. Intimate. Just a handful of true friends, Rosa cracking jokes, Charles rolling his eyes at the sappy vows, Miguel grinning brighter than the sun. No media. No paparazzi. Just love. And as Damian and Elena exchange vows, the world outside still buzzes with gossip. But in that little circle, it doesn't matter. Because for once, Damian isn't the billionaire CEO. And Elena isn't the poor cleaner. They're just two souls who fought the odds, and won. Months later, Damian and Elena launch a new foundation, one dedicated to supporting workers, cleaners, assistants, the invisible people who keep empires running but are often forgotten. They call it the Cruz Blackwood Foundation. Elena speaks at the opening, for years, I believed my worth was measured in how invisible I could be. But I was wrong. Every person matters. Every voice deserves to be heard. This foundation is proof that no dream is too small to matter. The crowd applauds. Damian stands beside her, proud. Rosa wipes away tears. Charles mutters something about finally doing something useful. And Miguel? He beams. His sister isn't just surviving anymore. She's leading. The camera pans up, over the city skyline, the sun rising. A new dawn. A new chapter. A new beginning. And that is how the story ends. The billionaire CEO didn't just find love. The poor cleaner didn't just escape hardship. Together, they rewrote the script. From scandal to strength. From betrayal to redemption. From broken pieces to a brand new future. Because sometimes, the biggest mistake becomes the greatest love story. And that was just the beginning. The battle for love, loyalty, and power is far from over. If you want to see how this firestorm ends, make sure you like, share, and drop a comment below on what you think will happen next. And most importantly, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next chapter of this story will blow your mind.